Oh, good day, everyone, everywhere, and special greetings to all those seated in heavenly places in Jesus, our Messiah. The name of this broadcast is Cross the Border, and I'm Nicholas. Today is our live weekly prophecy reality edition. And just like the name says, we want to look at prophecy realistically. We want to understand how the Bible interprets prophecy itself, because we want to get our interpretation from the Bible. It's called exegesis, no eisegesis, no reading into the Bible what we want to be there, or what we see in the headlines, or whatever, as many do. We want to understand Revelation. We want to understand what the symbols mean, when things are to be taken literally, and when they are to be taken symbolically or metaphorically. Or we want to understand how the Holy Spirit would have us interpret His Word. And that takes a lot of study. We need to understand, we need to read His Bible, and we need to let go of all of the popular things out there. And speaking of popular things, there's a really popular so-called prophecy author out there who has just released a book just here recently within the last couple months. As a matter of fact, I was looking at it on Amazon, and it only has 8 customer reviews so far. So that's pretty low for this author, that meaning the book is quite new. And of course, his name is Tom Horn, and the name of the book is The Rabbis, Donald Trump, and the Top Secret Plan to Build the Third Temple. Now, we all want to know about that top secret plan to build the third temple, don't we? And I was listening to True News the other day, too, also, and he had put on a show. Let me put this on the screen so you can see. They had done a show, and they titled this show, Last Days Deception, Zionist Scheme to Build a Third Temple in Jerusalem. So it's all over the place, this top secret plan that nobody knows about to build a third temple in Jerusalem, and mixing it up with Trump. And I listened to this True News show. I got to figure out, I got to see what if they've uncovered anything. After all, they are a TRU news organization, right? That's 3/4 of the word true, for your information. So I listened to it, and I took some notes down here. I got 29 minutes in, and then they finally mentioned the third temple thing that they titled the whole video. So you had to go 30 minutes in before you even heard about it. And then they went off on a diatribe about Zionism and how the Palestinians are getting a raw deal and being shot with rubber bullets or whatever. And now they've kind of become the Palestinian news source, because they forgot all about America, but that's their thing, I guess, is to report on Israel-Palestinian news. Okay, but anyway, and then I listened, and it was just the same old spiel about anti-Zionism and how the Zionists are going to rule the world, those bad, bad, bad Jews and all that, and how they're not anti-Semitic because they're against Zionism. And, I could care less about Zionism myself. It doesn't make you anti-Semitic. So they have a lot of good points, but they still fail to identify the Antichrist. And we've talked about that before. And finally, got 47 minutes in, they started talking about temple deniers. And then they mentioned Fagin, the guy who ran against Netanyahu, I guess, how he talked about we will build the temple within so many years or whatever. He's one of the things about getting elected was he was going to build the temple, but I think Netanyahu's already on top of it, him and Trump and all their colluders there with their Zionist schemes, so to speak. But what a disappointment. He had nothing, no information. That was about all he had to say, except his regular spiel. But back to our book here. Let's see. The Rabbis, Donald Trump, and the Top Secret Plan to Build the Third Temple. You think, well, I'm going to read this book, and I'm going to find out what's going on here. So that's what I thought I was going to do. But I decided, well, you know what? it's going to cost me $17 to buy a paperback, or $10 to get it on Kindle, right? I could read it on my Kindle reader on my computer, and because I don't have one of those other Kindle things. But anyway, and I thought, nah, you know what? I'm not going to give this guy $4 because I already know what he's going to say. Now, if you really want to know about this, because there is no secret plan, and I read enough of his book to find out that he's got nothing to say. Now, many of the things he talks about in his book, I've already wrote about in my January 2017 book, When the Third Temple is Built, the Rapture Play will begin. That's the secret, is that it's a play, okay? And the script is written by, guess who? The Antichrist and his shadow government or counter-reformation army. They're the ones who have written the script, and most evangelical Christians believe it. And this guy, along with Rick Wiles and Thomas Horn and all of these people, they're only coadjutors, knowingly or unknowingly. I can't search the hearts. I don't know. I don't know whether they're knowingly serving the Antichrist, or whether they're doing it ignorantly, because I ignorantly believed in the rapture play, but I believed it was a serious Bible thing, but come to find out it's not in the Bible at all. It's just twisted conjecture using Bible verses to build and concoct a scheme and deceive people into believing what the Antichrist is going to pull off. Of course, the end game for the Antichrist scheme, or the play that they've been building on for so many years, getting people to believe, the end of it is that you will worship the Antichrist. The whole world will worship the Antichrist at the end of the play. And you can read about that in my book if you want to know the real top secret plan. It's not what our friend Thomas Horn says. But anyway, let's take a look at what Thomas Horn has to say in his book here. The Rabbis, Donald Trump, and the top secret plan to build the third temple. Okay, let's take a look, because I have enough of this here somewhere that we can actually look at it. Here we go, chapter 1. Okay, you're seeing it here for the first time, most likely. Don't buy this book. That's all I can say. Don't waste your money. All right. Let's read along with him, see what he has to reveal to us here. Though I'm not a prophet, well, thank God. His first admission. I make several incredible predictions in this work, and I might as well get the biggest ones out of the way in the very beginning. Whew. Good, I don't have to read the whole thing. So I can then proceed to explain over the course of this tome why I'm convinced of something very extraordinary. Hey, that rhymes. Very extraordinary. It has not been since I and my late investigative partner, Chris Putnam, accurately predicted the resignation of Pope Benedict 1 year in advance, naming the very month and year he would retire while writing the best-selling book, Petrus Romanus, that I had such a powerful gut feeling about something ahead. Okay, so he's not a prophet. He has a gut feeling. He's giving you his admissions up front. Okay, so that means don't count on anything I'm saying to be the truth or to really pan out. But look, we said Pope Benedict was going to resign, and he did. Yeah, I wonder if that was a gut feeling too. This time, however, events set to transpire soon, in my studied opinion, are much bigger than the prophecy of the popes. They are, in fact, and let's go back to this here for a minute. Petrus Romanus, it's about the end-time Antichrist pope that's going to rise up and be the Antichrist. Finally, one of the popes is going to be the end-time Antichrist foretold of in the Scripture. And the popes now aren't. Benedict, of course, isn't, and neither is, what's his name, unless he's the last, Bergoglio, Jorge Bergoglio, the present Pope Francis. Yeah, they are in fact earth-shattering. Okay. Anyway, they are in fact earth-shattering and will accomplish nothing less than altering the course of history. What is about to unfold will set in motion the arrival of Antichrist and Armageddon. Soon, followed by the second coming of Jesus Christ. During the study, you will learn why I say this and of a secret plan to instigate it. Now, the secret plan is not a secret plan, but it's a secret plan to instigate it. Okay, and what is the it? Well, the it must be the arrival of the Antichrist and Armageddon, followed by the second coming of Jesus Christ. So there's a secret plan to instigate this. And according to Rick Wiles, the secret plan to instigate it is Zionism. Maybe. Now, I guess maybe I would say that. I don't know what he believes. It's hard to nail it down. But anyway, let's continue reading here. During the study, we'll learn why I say this and of a secret plan to instigate it by building the third temple in Jerusalem. It's happening right now behind the scenes in clandestine negotiations between global powers and religious leaders. These astonishing claims, regardless how incredible they may seem, will be unveiled over the course of this book. Connected to all this, I will ultimately make the forceful argument that when the time is right, U.S. President Donald Trump will, as the rabbis in Israel hold, play a key role by speaking in favor of the third temple's construction. When that happens, it will ignite the single most important prophetic event in our lifetime. Unfortunately for those who at first find great joy in the temple's reconstruction, exuberance will be short-lived and will ultimately cave to terror. In this order, did you know that the architectural plans for Third Temple have already begun? So I already wrote about it. There's nothing secret about that. Like I said, get my book. When the Third Temple is built, the rapture play will begin, okay? And you'll learn all of these things that he's enumerating here. The Sanhedrin, the nascent tribunal that has styled itself after the Second Temple-era Jewish court, recently instructed Jerusalem mayoral candidates to include in their plans the building of the Third Temple. At the close of 2018, the Sanhedrin also invited 70 nations to dedicate the altar for the Third Temple, okay? So I have most of what he has here. A couple of details I don't have, which are not really important, but they do help to fill the pages up. Evangelical Christians and Jews gathered in Jerusalem at the close of 2018 for an interfaith conference aimed at joining efforts to build the Third Temple for inaugurating the Messianic era. Okay? Of course, the evangelical Christians, they have an ulterior motive, which their ulterior motive is to instigate the coming of Jesus Christ by the building of the Third Temple. Not a secret plan, okay? I wrote all about it. We've known about this for many years. They write about it in their books. We know what their motivation is. It's not a secret here. Maybe a secret to them. Okay, Freemasons in the U.S. and Israel have been secretly planning for decades to build the Third Temple. Okay, yeah, we know that. They've been. It hasn't been secret. They printed it in the early 20th century. Over 100 years ago, they openly let their intentions be known. It might be a secret if you don't know about it, but it was no secret. Still isn't. Jews are increasingly demanding access to the Temple Mount with visions of building the Third Temple. Again, not a secret if you're paying attention to the news and what's going on over there in Jerusalem. In September 2018, a newborn red heifer was certified by a board of rabbis fulfilling all the biblical requirements. Okay, they've got their red heifer. We've talked about that here too. And I'm not sure whether I touch on the red heifer in my book or not, but it might be in there, it might not. Doesn't really matter. But it's important for, if they're going to do sacrifice, they have to have the red heifer. Although I think I looked for red heifer in the Bible and couldn't find it. But hey, if they say they need one, who am I to argue with them? Because the elements needed for this ceremony have been lacking since the destruction of the Second Temple, all Jews today are considered ritually impure, thereby preventing the return of the temple service. Okay, yeah, what's a temple without service? That is, he says, until now. A growing number of rabbis in Israel view Donald Trump as a Cyrus-like figure whom the God of Israel raised up to initiate the Messianic era and the construction of the Third Temple. And more on this later, of course. And I wrote about that in my book, too. Okay, so you don't need to more on it later. You can read my book for free. Go to my website, crosstheborder.org, and press on the free ebook tab there and request when the third temple is built. You can read about how they believe that he's a Cyrus-like figure. Okay, more on that. Yeah. Okay. Saudi Arabia, Jewish religious leaders, and Donald Trump are negotiating behind the scenes to transfer control of Israel's holy sites, including the Temple Mount, to the Saudis to complete a peace covenant that could result, among other things, the building of a third temple. More on this later. Okay, yes, there's been a big change in the Saudi Arabian government. Of course, a lot of that has been ongoing since I wrote my book. But yeah, that's going on. So there could be some maneuvering there to get control, because I know that Trump and his team and the Antichrist, they want to get this temple built. The Antichrist doesn't want to get it built so that he can go into it and claim that he's God, but so that he can put up someone to go into it and take the identity of the Antichrist, once again remove him further from the papacy itself, the onus that the Reformation fathers put on it, of the papacy being the seat of the Antichrist. That's never going to change. They've been working for hundreds of years to remove that smear on their name that the Protestant Reformation brought about, recognizing the Roman Catholic Church as that great apostasy foretold by Paul in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, and the papacy being the seat of the Antichrist, the man of sin of the 2 Thessalonians chapter 2. Even some Muslim scholars have come to believe the time has arrived to build the third temple. I've covered that in my broadcast before too, so nothing new, nothing secret here yet. And I'm going to tell you something. There is nothing new or secret in this book. Nothing that, if you're paying attention and you know what's going on out there at all, like I have been, but it's not a secret. It's just unknown probably to most people. These are just some of the revelations we will examine over the pages of this groundbreaking work. Don't waste your money. You want to know the truth? And that behind the truth that he's telling you, you'll get it in my book, because it is the rapture play will begin when they build the third temple. And what a play it's going to be. I mean, I look forward to the arrival of the play. And because I know what the end is. The end is everyone's going to worship the Antichrist. The Antichrist is not going to be outed. There's going to be a pseudo-Antichrist put up to be outed, because this whole play is being brought to you by the true Antichrist, who was outed 500 years, more than 500 years ago, by the Reformation, pre-Reformation and Reformation fathers. Okay, there it is. And you can read about that in my book. That's the secret that he's not going to tell you in this book that we're reviewing. Okay? The temple movement has been steadily working in order to gather, prepare the critical elements, and even to train the priesthood. We talk about all that. We've talked about all that for many years. It's ongoing. The momentum is building. It's going to happen. But like I said, the true secret behind the pseudo secrets, it's like blown cover as cover. That's like I said, this is the work of Jesuit coadjutors, knowingly or unknowingly. I'm not willing to make that determination yet, but I can say that it's the truth. Okay. But you may say the Muslim dome sits on top of the mount over the very ancient spot where Jehovah's holy temple, or I should say Yahuwah's holy of holies existed, and thus a Jewish temple cannot be built, as it would start a world war if anybody tried to remove and replace the Al-Aqsa Mosque, which rests on the far southern side of the mount facing Mecca, and the Dome of the Rock that currently sits in the middle where the Jews' holy temple previously stood. And yet there are ways the substantial hurdle may be soon overcome. For instance, A fault line near Jerusalem has been caused a dozen major earthquakes over the last 1,000 years and may be strategically located. Strategically located? Who located it there? Well, that would have had to be God, because I'm sure it wasn't the Jews or David said, hey, look, there's an earthquake fault here. Let's strategically locate it. Okay? But onward. And destroy the Islamic shrines at any point. Zechariah 14:3-4 reads, then the Lord will go out and fight against those nations as he fights in the day of battle, and the day his feet will stand on the Mount of Olives, east of Jerusalem. The Mount of Olives will be split in two from east to west, forming a great valley with half in the mountain moving forth. And yes, we already know about that. So he's saying this earthquake may do it. We may have this earthquake that's spoken of here by the prophets. Such a catastrophic event would wipe out the Muslim compound and provide a catalyst for rebuilding. Well, I certainly hope so. I mean, that would be great if that happened. It would. I guess it would move things forward, but I'm not sure that's necessary. I don't think the Antichrist and the secret cabal that's planning, that he's trying out, is planning on an earthquake, okay? So that is part of his secret plan to rebuild the temple, unless they're going to put a nuke underground and give the earthquake a little nudge or something, okay? But anyway, so he goes on. Okay, such catastrophic event would wipe out the Muslim compound and provide a catalyst for rebuilding Solomon's temple, or a version of it as a global center for all faiths under international, perhaps even United Nations efforts. Recent quake activity through the Holy Land, some 30 tremors have shaken Israel this month alone. As I write this chapter, indicates the size of activity could be building toward the prophetic event eventually. Okay, and so we're not going to talk about this because you can't count on earthquakes. Like I said, unless, I think they have set off some earthquake nukes here in the past. A lot of people think that Puerto Rico, I guess it was Puerto Rico, the island quake over there. A lot of people think that was a test, an earthquake, an underground, deep underground nuke earthquake test to see what they could do and get away with. Okay, but that's only speculation, so I don't know. I don't put anything past the Antichrist and his shadow government. I mean, they will do anything and try anything to control the world. Okay, it is also entirely possible that an event such as an earthquake would not be required. So let's get past the earthquake speculation. To bring about the dream of a new temple in Jerusalem. The Middle East is a power keg, and war with missiles and bombs could take out the Islamic shrines in a single hour. More speculation, unless they have a plan to do that. Some claim the Muslim structures could even be intentionally targeted during a conflict as a way of facilitating the construction of a new temple. Okay, we're going to continue this after we come back from some messages. You're listening to Cross the Border. This is our Prophecy Reality Edition. Make sure you go to my website, crosstheborder.org. Click on the free ebook tab there and request my book, When the Third Temple is Built, the Rapture Play Will Begin.
Visit crosstheborder.org, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of Nicholas Arthur's new book titled When the Third Temple is Built. That's crosstheborder.org. When it comes to prophecy today, much of the evangelical Christian world has their eyes on Israel, waiting and watching to see when the third temple will begin to be built. The plans are drawn. The Jewish people are eager. Most evangelical Christians today believe that the rapture will happen before the third temple is built. Hi, I'm Michael Eugene. I was taught that Daniel's 70th week was in the future. Is that really what the Bible teaches? Have we searched the scriptures and found this to be true? Why is it so important for a re-established Israel to build a third temple in Jerusalem? Is it necessary to build a temple on the same location already occupied by the Dome of the Rock? Is it necessary for sacrifices to take place in the temple on Temple Mount? Is there really a rapture followed by 7 years of tribulation? What is the New Testament temple? Can we identify history and prophecy? Who is the first beast in Revelation chapter 13? Who are the seven kings in Revelation 17? I have asked all these questions, and I have found Nicholas Arthur's new book, When the Third Temple is Built, answers all these questions and more using Scripture to interpret Scripture. The Bible says that no prophecy of Scripture is of any private interpretation. Nicholas shows us in his new book, When the Third Temple is Built, how the Bible interprets prophecy and not man's private interpretation. Visit crosstheborder.org, C-R-O-S-S, crosstheborder.org to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of Nicholas Arthur's new book titled When the Third Temple is Built. That's crosstheborder.org.
The book of Revelation says, "The spirit of prophecy is the testimony of Jesus Christ." This is at the very heart of FirstAmendmentRadio.com. In that spirit, we have created the Prophecy Reality News app for all of your mobile devices, streaming First Amendment Radio 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Available for your Apple, Android device, and smartphone, absolutely free. Get the Prophecy Reality News app installed today, so you can listen to First Amendment Radio wherever you are. The Prophecy Reality News app. Get it now.
Welcome back. You're listening to Across the Border, our Prophecy Reality Edition. And we are reviewing the book. The book is called, okay, where did that book go? Oh, here it is. The book is called The Rabbis, Donald Trump, and the top secret plan to build the third temple. Okay. I'm reading some excerpts out of the book and commenting on them. And hopefully you won't buy the book, but you will take advantage of my offer, or buy my book. You can get it there at my website too if you want to buy it. You can buy this thing here, I think, for about $10 on from Lulu.com. Just put in my name, Nicholas Arthur, and it'll come up, or type in When the Third Temple is Built at the Lulu.com website there, and you can get this for $10 in the pocketbook edition. There's a trade publication. It's more. Pocketbook edition, it's like $10, okay? So you can get it, or go to my website, you can get an e-copy for free. I'll send you a PDF or an EPUB, and you can read it for free. Just go to my website, click on the free ebook tab there, and follow the instructions, and then in the comments section, you will say, I would like a copy of When the Third Temple is Built. And that way you will have subscribed to my blog. That's number one. There's 3 steps. Subscribe to my blog, and then you got to, tell somebody about it. Call your mother, call your brother, tell your children, shout to your neighbor across the fence. Say, hey, check out that book. Or go to crosstheborder.org. Tell someone about the free book offer one way or another. I'll believe you did it. I mean, who would lie about such a thing? And then request the book that you want. When the Third Temple is Built, the Rapture play will begin, and you'll learn more from this book than you will ever learn from Thomas Horn's book, The Rabbis, Donald Trump, and the Third Temple. But let's continue our critical review of the book here, okay? Let's see, here we are. We left off here on this page. And we're talking, he's speculating there might be an earthquake, and which would precipitate the rebuilding of the entire Temple Mount. Then they could build the third Jewish temple. Well, moving on, though. He says, he also, interestingly, let's say I didn't know this because I'm not a big movie buff, but interestingly, the newest Mission Impossible movie, Fallout, depicts, now I might have to watch this movie, depicts its Renegade's arms dealer named John Lark, who works with a global gang of thugs called the Apostles, who possesses 3 containers of plutonium, and they plan to use to fulfill the very scenario first outlined in his best-selling book. So he's selling his book here, Petrus Romanus and the Final Roman Emperor, by bombing the Vatican, the Temple Mount in Jerusalem, and Mecca. Sounds like a real, what do you call it? Yeah, anyway, I might have to watch it. In a recent Jerusalem Post article, Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas charged that Israel is secretly planning to make that happen, to destroy the Al-Aqsa Mosque in order to rebuild the Third Temple. So there's a lot of stuff buzzing around this whole topic. And then there is a third possibility involving how the Third Temple could be built. On June 18, 2009, so that's not so secret, and it's pretty long ago, it was announced in Jerusalem as a result of theological research that a prophetic rabbi could allow for an extension of the Temple Mount to be made. And that's exactly what I outlined in my book. When the Third Temple is built, the rapture play will begin. Okay, that's what I outlined. That extension of the Temple Mount to be made, on which the third Jewish temple could be construction. In an article called "A Vision for God's Holy Mountain," also spoken of in my book. Get the links there and everything to the websites, but you can just put in "Vision for God's Holy Mountain," you'll get there. Or Margalit, rabbinical studies professor at Bar Ilan University in Israel, wrote that the scenario of a holy revelation given to an authentic prophet that the temple will be rebuilt on the current or an extended Temple Mount in peaceful proximity to the Dome, Al-Aqsa Mosque, and nearby Christian shrines. Same exact quote I have in my book from over 2 years ago. Okay, is all that it would take to approve such a plan. According to Jewish law, such a prophetic mandate could be then binding. And he goes on, as alluded to in the earlier bullet points, due to the occult value of sacredness of numerous elements surrounding Freemason versions of Solomon's Temple, on which all Masonic lodges are and ceremonial rituals are based, there has been an idea for some time that groups from among Freemasons illuminated for blah, blah, blah. I'm not even going to go there. Okay, because he's going back into the Freemason thing and what they wrote about at the beginning of the 20th century. Here he says, yes, 1912, 1914, and let's see, their Messiah will pass through the golden Masonic portals of the temple, announcing to the world that the universal Savior of mankind has come. Apollo incarnate, Antichrist. Okay, and so it's got a picture of the Freemason plan to rebuild Solomon's Temple, published in, I think, 1908 or something, whatever it says up there in that little itty-bitty type. Okay, I could blow that thing up, but I'm not going to. But I'll post all this stuff with the posting on my website when I post this video later today. So if you want all of these screenshots and stuff, you can go to my website and they'll be there below the video. Okay? We'll post them there. Oh yeah, 1909. There's the date right there. Okay, moving on. In addition to occultist groups, including Temple Mount Faithful and Temple Institute in Jerusalem, are busy restoring and constructing sacred vessels, vestments that will be used for service in their new temple and the arrival of their Messiah. Whether or not circumstances will be sufficient to build the new temple before America elects or re-elects its next president in 2020, the rabbis in Israel believe Donald Trump, started in 1960, may well have laid the foundation upon which this man of sin shall reign. So they're thinking, well, maybe we don't want to identify Donald Trump. Maybe it's going to be the next president or whoever is put up by the Antichrist to be the pseudo-Antichrist. Okay? See, because the secret is this. The secret is this. The true secret that Thomas Horn and True News and none of these people are going to reveal to you is that the whole Zionist temple building thing is all a Antichrist shadow government psyop so that they can pull off their secret plan to take over and get the world to worship the true Antichrist that was outed by the Reformation fathers. Yes, every single one of them, from Luther on down, recognized the Roman Catholic Church as that great foretold apostasy, because when the Roman Empire broke up and split into 10, guess who took took precedence and started to rule the entire old world empire of Rome. Guess who did that? Yeah, the papacy. The vicar of Christ became Pontifex Maximus. See, Pontifex Maximus was a title of the Roman Caesars. And so that is when the nation split into 10, and you go to Daniel's little horn, the 10 horns rose up, and then a little horn rose up and plucked up 3, and because they were the nearest to his dominion. He plucked them up, and he ruled the entire Roman world for 1,260 years. Yes, until 1/10 of the kingdom fell away from him. That was Protestant England, which became Protestant when he lost his dominion over them so many years ago. And yeah, you can read a lot of that is in this little book here. You wouldn't believe this little book has all that in it. It's because it's not filled with a lot of fluff. It's stuff just to fill pages, as entertaining as it all may be. Let's see. So he talks about the templeinstitute.org, the God's Holy Mountain thing, whether or not circumstances will be sufficient. Yes, this raises a few serious questions. Did God, who works all things together for good, ordain the election of Donald Trump for a specific purpose and mission related to the Third Temple? Now, did God, who works all things together for good? That's totally out of context there. Has nothing to do with electing presidents, but it's talking about our election, how he predestined us to be conformed to the image of his only begotten Son. Read it there, Romans 8:28. But it sounds good here in his book. Did God ordain the election of Donald Trump for a specific purpose and mission related to the Third Temple? If so, did the year of his election, 2016, hold specific prophetic significance? Did something start at 2016 like a clock winding down to this momentous event? And he goes on and he starts talking about 2016 and numerology and so forth. Okay, he says, I then connected the dots in Saboteurs, another one of his book, between the year 2016 specifically and what prophets and seers down through time foresaw as related to that date in particular. Oh, really? Okay, well, let's go to the next page. And so he talks all about that 2016 and all of this stuff, and I'm not going to go into it. Yes, and he talks about Assyria and Babylon are two more examples of pagan entities used by God to correct his people after they'd fallen into apostasy. So he talks about God, how God used Cyrus and other people, so therefore he can use Trump. And he did. We get the idea. Speaking of Nebuchadnezzar, his example also illustrates how in times past God sometimes used pagans to utter divine insights. Because, of course, in Daniel chapter 2, God gave Nebuchadnezzar a dream, and it's an outline for the history. As a matter of fact, he dreamed what we call the Mystery Babylon image. If you want to understand Mystery Babylon, then you must understand the image dream that God gave Nebuchadnezzar. And, of course, Daniel, God gave Daniel the interpretation to the image dream. He did not give it to Nebuchadnezzar. So he talks about that. Ronald Allen, professor of Hebrew Scripture at Western Baptist Seminary, writes, in agreement with many of the early church Jews, and we believe this text speaks unmistakably of the coming of the Messiah. Talking about the scepter shall rise out of Israel. And, of course, having nothing to do with a secret. It goes on. The Pythagorean prophecy was well over 1,000 years before the birth of Christ. Okay, more and more stuff. And he talks more about Cyrus, and he goes on and on about how Donald Trump can be a character that God used, and therefore it's a momentous beginning of a countdown in 2016. So he goes on to make his case about that. Rabbi Yosef Berger, who oversees King David's tomb in Jerusalem, takes it a step farther. He believes Trump actually won the election through the power of Mashiach. which gave him the boost he needed and is connected to the needed for the actual writing. Wait a minute, must have skipped something. Connected to the Okay, I don't know what happened there. Seems like I missed a page. Made Zenith unusual. Okay. Anyway, so he's talking about all these prophecies in the year 2016 and Donald Trump, and he's trying to weave all this stuff together. And it's all very intriguing if you know nothing, okay? And if you don't know the secret under the secret. But what he's doing is he's building up this Antichrist scenario that the Antichrist is trying to pull off on the world to further vindicate the true Antichrist and set someone else up for the fall as the false Antichrist. And see how that works. You can read all about it, like I said, in my book, When the Third Temple is Built. So he goes on the prophecy from the Zohar on Messiah's arrival, 800-year-old prophecy of Rabbi Judah ben Samuel, okay, about the prophecy's arrival. He even invokes here the Protestant reformers and what they believed would start in 2016. Really? Oh, well, see, now this piques my interest because, I'm not, a scholar or anything, but I have read a lot of the Protestant Reformation. So if he's going to invoke the Protestant reformers and what they believe would start in 2016, how did I miss that? In all of my reading, the entire Horia Apocalypticae, the history of the Reformation, and all of the other books that I and Tom Fress have reviewed and read. How did we miss this? This is new information here. So he's invoking the Protestant reformers. Let's see what he has to say. Among the turn of the century Protestant reformers. The turn of the century? The turn of what century? The 21st century? Among the turn of the century Protestant reformers. Okay, well, let's find out. Let's try to figure out what century he's talking about. Okay, so let's keep that in mind. Among the turn of the century Protestant reformers, an astonishing number of theologians believed. They believed. That means they must be dead, because otherwise he would say believe. So it can't be the turn of this century. Perhaps it was the turn of the 20th century. Let's go back 120 years, the turn of the century. Because they believed. That means they're all dead. Unless they change their belief between now and then, that the false prophet and Antichrist would assume places of authority in 2016 and shortly thereafter ascend to the world stage. The famous preacher Jonathan Edwards, the turn of the century, Jonathan Edwards, let's see. Jonathan Edwards, a Protestant preacher from the mid-18th century. So we're going back 250 years, and not even not the turn of any century, the center of a century, to Jonathan Edwards. So that's a big faux pas right there. Among the turn of the century Protestant reformers, Jonathan Edwards, American Protestant preacher. No, he's not a he was a reformer. He was a Protestant, and I'd say he was reformed. But he wasn't a father, a Protestant father. So, okay, well, let's see what Jonathan Edwards said. Okay, possibility and help, post-millennial view based on the 1260 days, the woman is the wilderness in Revelation 12:6. Okay, so Jonathan Edwards, mid-1700s, believed that when the 1260 years ended, that the Antichrist would rise? Or what? Huh? Okay. He interpreted those days as the years that the true church was to be oppressed by the papists. Okay, now he's saying, this is the truth. Jonathan Edwards would have believed that 1260 days were years that the true church was to be oppressed by the papists. And he was still in those years. Those years were coming to an end within his century, at the end of the century that he lived. Okay, going on, he says, Clarence Gowan writes of this. Edwards considered that the most likely time for the reign of Antichrist was 1260 years after 756, the ascending power of temporal power of the Pope, which would place the beginning of the Antichrist power squarely in 2016. Okay, well, what he's talking about was, this was about the time that Pepin, that France recognized, I believe it was France, Pepin recognized the Antichrist, so 756. So he has the wrong start, but he calculated that the end of the 1260 year of the Antichrist, because he's calculating the beginning of the Antichrist reign to be about 756 because of the accession of Pepin and the Antichrist power in that reign, okay? So the 1260 years then, of course, then it would end at 2016. But see, he's affirming that the 1260 year reign of the Antichrist began and would end 1260 years later. But he's not going to tell you that. It sounds very good, but he's not really letting the cat out of the bag that this is the actual Antichrist reign. And then he's saying, well, after the Antichrist reign, then there would be an Antichrist that would rise up. But see, we know from prophecy that the 1260 years did end, but before Christ returns, that because the Antichrist's deadly head wound is healed, that he will rise again. And he has risen again. Okay? And he will pull off that end time thing where he requires everyone to buy or sell, mark to buy or sell. In the end, okay? But here he's kind of mixing, historicism with futurist dispensationalism. And those things don't mix, okay? But he's not really letting out the cat out of the bag. When we were doing research for the book, Petrus Romanus, the Final Pope, is here, we learned of this belief by Edwards and sought to vary it by examining a collection of personal voluminous writings. We found confirmation that a series of sermons preached at Northampton, Massachusetts in 1739 on how history and prophecy coincide. And so there you can see he invokes Jonathan Edwards and to falsely back up his scheme here that the Antichrist is going to rise. No. Jonathan Edwards just had the wrong beginning date for the accession of the papacy and its 1260-year reign. But he did get it right that it was actually 1260 years. And he thought, well, then they would have to end in 2016. But that was wrong because you can read this, okay, Last Prophecy or E.B. Elliott's work or any of our good works here, and we talk about that all the time, the beginning and the end of the 1260-year reign, when the judgment of God fell on the Antichrist and the beast power, the head of the beast power. That was at the time of the French Revolution. And we do talk about that here in this book because I talk about, anyway, I have a chapter on that about prophecy in history. Let's see, where is that at? That would be Identifying History and Prophecy. I have a chapter briefly on that covers the French Revolution and what happened and how that was the end of the 1260-year reign of the Antichrist. And oops, I thought I had these words all on the screen all this time. But anyway, I'll have all of these screenshots when I post this later today. So make sure you stick around for that. Okay. You're listening to Across the Border or Prophecy Reality Edition. We just did a review on Thomas Horn's book, The Rabbis, Donald Trump, and the Top Secret Plan to Build the Third Temple. Okay? Nothing new, nothing secret, a lot of conjecture. Don't waste your money buying this book. Okay? You'll learn a lot more if you get my book, and you don't even have to buy it. You can buy it if you want. I would appreciate that if you actually bought it, because I'm certainly not making as much money as Tom Horn is, because the Antichrist is not behind me, and he really controls the media. I can't even get on a broadcast show. Nobody all of the shows that will interview Thomas Horn on his book, none of them will review me or give my book any air. That's right, none of them will. Because my book is much more controversy because I named the Antichrist, which Thomas Horn does not. Okay? And the Antichrist loves it. The books like this and all this futurist dispensational nonsense and confusion. If you want to know what's really going to happen when they build a third temple or third temple-like structure, because they're never really going to, I can tell you, they're not going to do any animal sacrifice when they build their third temple. No, that's not going to be allowed because the Antichrist will not allow it. He will have no other sacrifice but his bloodless sacrifice of transubstantiation. And if I know the Antichrist at all and his minions, they will not allow it. And I write about that in my book, why it will not be allowed and how they will do away with it when they are building the temple. Okay. I'll come back in the next hour and we're going to continue our coverage and our look into the history of Protestantism. You do not want to miss this series. It's going to be long, but it's going to be very insightful. If you forget history, then you don't know where you're at. Well, may the Almighty bless you and keep you till we meet again.
The program you are listening to is 100% sponsored by you, the listener, on this First Amendment Rights Media channel. You will notice that there are few commercials on this radio network. There's a good reason for that. Corporate advertising dollars come with strings that limit program content. So without your help, these programs cannot continue on satellite, internet, or our several affiliates. If you benefit by the educational law programs, we ask you to give. If you are admonished or nurtured by the Bible and ministry programs, we ask you to give. If some voice a cause that you are passionate about, we ask you to give. If you believe in any of these, we ask you to support them as you would a missionary on a continual basis, as if giving a tithe for missionary radio. These programs are not commercially viable and must be supported by those faithful to the cause of truth. Look for the button to sponsor your favorite programs at our listen and schedule pages on the internet. We will also give you unlimited archive access to all of our programs. We're asking you to give much less than a tithe so that you may also send support directly to a particular program host, cause, and anywhere else the Spirit may lead you. Do all to the glory of our God and Creator, for His holy nation, the only kingdom that will last forever. Thank you for listening.